Welcome to Beyond the Spotlight, where we step into the wings and talk with the fascinating people who have the inside scoop on all things theater and film. My name is Megan Dymski, co-founder and artistic director here at Genesis Children's Theater. Today, I'm excited to chat with Meg Parker Wilson, our OG director here at Genesis. Today, we are talking about growing up in Brazil, filmmaking, why she always plays animals in our Genesis staff show, and more. M.P.Dubbs, welcome to Beyond the Spotlight.
Hello, thank you. Thank you for having me. So excited. That's the best intro I think I've ever had.
It's my pleasure. So the first thing that I want to ask is I want to take it all the way back, like, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago, and talk about how we met, like how we even came into each other's circles. Do you remember? Because I have a very distinct memory about that, but you tell me what do you remember?
Okay. I was new to Texas. I had just moved from Los Angeles and I was brand new, didn't know anybody, and was looking around for work, hoping to break into the theater world, which is so hard to do when you don't know anyone and you don't know what the theater scene is or the film scene is. It's a challenging piece when you're moving to a totally new city. And my husband, actually, Nate, had walked into a place in some random building, I guess, in McKinney, and was talking about his new wife in theater, and someone suggested that we ought to call Nicole Woodall because they were part of a theater, and this was, of course, not Genesis yet. It was another theater, and they were looking for some directors possibly for their upcoming season for children's shows. And so I was all about it. I called your mom, who I did not know, Nicole, Woodall, Mama Nicole, Grandma Nicole, Granny Nicole, at the time. And we had a conversation. She did an interview with me. Then, of course, she passed me on also to Marcel. And then I showed up, Marcel Livesay Hamilton, another wonderful theater director, amazing friend of ours. And I remember walking in and meeting you all, very scared, very nervous to essentially step into a world of theater that I didn't know about in Dallas or North Texas and meet new friends. It's really scary. Yeah, that was how it all kind of happened on that end.
Yes. Yeah, I was so like, I will forever thank Nate Wilson, because what a bold thing to do, to just walk into a building and be like, I mean, that's so Nate too, isn't it? It's like, hey, you do theater? My wife does theater. Y'all should get together.
Yeah.
And like that one action led to 15 years and on of a relationship. That's really remarkable. Yeah, that's really remarkable.
I really got teary-eyed just now thinking about it. So yeah, just taking a chance. And that's how so much of life, good life happens, is taking a chance and a risk, putting yourself out there.
Yeah. One of my questions is I usually keep it to the end, but I think it needs to go here, is when we think through our theater journey and there's that one moment or instant or somebody made a choice which forever set you on this trajectory, can you pinpoint what, like, was it somebody in your life that said something to you, or was it something you saw, or like, how did you start this journey? What was the moment?
Yeah, I think a lot of people have this story, actually. I remember growing up in Brazil, there was not a lot of theater happening. I was going to essentially a boarding school with other English-speaking missionary kids. And, it's very similar for military kids. But I remember this one teacher had come down just as a part-time teacher and had decided she was going to do Arsenic and Old Lace with the high school kids. So I must have been, I so little, just so small. I mean, 6 would be probably even older than I was at this time, and we went to see this performance, and my eyes were huge, and I just remember thinking, "How do I get up there? I wanna be up there. What is this? I love this." And then, of course, from there friends, we would put on shows and we'd go around the neighborhood and ask people to come. We'd be under the mango tree and we'd be performing these scripts. That's another fun story. The little group of friends that I grew up doing that with, they are now making film down in Brazil. They still live there. They have a film production company, and I've been on their board and I've cast things for them and helped them with their films that they just won an award at the Cairo Film Festival actually for one of their films. So even then it's that that thing that was in us that said, I want to tell a story. I want to act. I want to do that for an audience. There's something about it when you're young, and from make believe then to moving back to the United States and having opportunity in school to start performing, doing speech and debate. That was it. And then my college journey as well, which I guess I don't want to keep going on, but that's where it started, was just seeing that play, Arsenic and Old Lace, for the first time. So that show is actually very special to me.
Yeah. Yeah, that we did that show a million years ago, and it was so funny, like a classic, but still holds up extremely well. So what was your first was it an acting class? What was the first time you went from, "Oh my gosh, I want to do that," to actually doing it?
Yeah, started with just, of course, some school or school little performances back in the United States, or even some church, like the church Christmas play. That was a great experience. But in high school was when I really had the opportunity. I just had the most amazing theater director. She was also our speech and debate coach, Jo Beth Nicholas. She's still one of my dear friends and mentors. She really allowed us opportunities to devise, direct, perform. We did one acts and just established such a great program that allowed me to expand. And she was really tough in ways that allowed us to stretch ourselves. I remember getting cast in a show that I felt like I couldn't do the part. I lost a lot of confidence thinking, I don't know if I can do this role. I think you cast me wrong. It's hard. And she said, yeah, you were ready. It was time for you to do that. And that was such a gift. It made me realize I needed to push myself more. It was a great
Wow,
gift. I
that's
don't know if that
incredible.
answered the question, but
Yeah.
that's what
Yeah, that's
ultimately
amazing. What kind of things did she teach you that you pass on to your students?
the first thing that came to mind is I like to say a lot, inhale pink, exhale blue, which is
Yes.
not theater related at all. But that was her way of saying, take a minute, take a beat. Like we like to say, no drama, just theater, or
Mhm.
get out of your head. Um, take a breath, and just a fun way of saying that. That's something really funny that I say now. But um, she was very much about allowing students to explore a lot of areas of theater, and of course, speech and debate as well, but trying out new characters, being an animal in every Genesis staff show.
Only one person can do that,
That's right.
and that
That's right.
person
Thank you. Um, I feel seen. And trying new creative ways to be on stage, working as an ensemble, but she gave me opportunities to help costume shows. And
Mm.
we had students who were running the sound, designing lights. So it was a really interactive opportunity. And that has been probably the biggest, most important lesson to me, is working with what some people would call scarcity is actually what makes you a more creative, writer, director, artistic director, when you can learn to tell a story with one chair on a stage, you've made it. You can work with anything. And a lot of students, even who went on to college that I knew, who entered major programs, because I did not go to a big university. I went to a small private school, and I had one professor, there was one theater faculty um on staff, and we had a small department. But the
God
experiences
bless that person. God bless.
Dr. Startwell, who is a good friend of mine still, and we'll talk about her again, just she's still one of my favorite collaborators. But we had a small program, and had the opportunity to assistant direct, to do costuming, to learn lighting and sound design, and just the opportunity to say, we only have this much in our budget, and we have, you know, this story to tell. How are we going to be smart about the types of stories? How are we going to make it creative based on what we have? I think that's why Genesis was such a natural place in the beginning for me, because when you started Genesis, maybe the thought was, okay, we're in a small space, we're going to expand. And so much has changed at Genesis, which has been amazing. We have this amazing, thriving space now. But I was not worried about, even when we got into that space, we're like, well, sky's the limit. We can do so much here. And we did. So making good theater and film is about the story and the people. And if you have a great script, a great story, and you have great people who are willing to become those characters, then it doesn't matter if you're all in potato sacks with black boxes, the audience is going to be invested. So to me, shiny is not better. Bigger is not better, especially when you're learning. When you're learning and growing, it's important to have those experiences where you can do anything with anything. Then when you get the budget and you get the space and all of that, cool, you're like, I can do, we can go to the moon. I'll build a spaceship with this. Yeah.
Right? And sometimes you see a show that has been so overproduced that they have so much budget that
Yes.
you lose the story, you lose the heart. And you say, well, it was really pretty to look at, but not a lot of meat on that bones. Would I go back and see that show? No. Would I produce that show? No, because they just had too much money. They lost their path. I'm so glad that you talk about scarcity too, because scarcity, and I'm going to kind of tie this in with speech and debate. I did speech growing up, all through middle school, through high school. It taught me so much. Not only was it super fun just to do, and very nerve-wracking, doing speech and debate in Plano. I went to Plano Senior High, and at that time we were at the top of our game. I mean, we won every tournament. People were winning nationals. A friend of mine won nationals in dramatic interpretation. Like the whole, we had an awesome rockin' team. And we were very competitive,
Yes.
and so stepping into the competitive world of theater where you have nothing, but you wear your competition outfit, which is usually like you dress like a business person. So the guys were wearing suits and the girls were wearing slacks or suits or whatever. And that's all you have to do. Maybe you're doing a monologue that's 10 minutes long. Maybe you're doing a duet scene that's 15 minutes long. And you're in a classroom with no lights, nothing. And just being exposed to other kids that are at the top of their game, that can make this incredible story happen in front of you with absolutely nothing. It solidifies exactly what you're saying. And that's when I tell people, when they come see the space, it's like, look, I know we might look small, but when that show starts, you are going to be so wrapped up in the story, it's not going to matter where you are. Because when you go to Dallas Summer Musicals and the show starts, you're not thinking, oh, I'm in this gigantic space. And actually, you're probably like, oh, I wish I was closer. I wish I could be more in the action because I'm so far away. So all that to say, the gift of our space is that we have to be creative, and we cannot feed the audience everything. And so then that kind of invites the audience to use their imaginations, and the directors too. We
Yes.
have to creatively problem solve and not hand feed everything, which, I'm totally into like minimalistic, abstract. Like I love that kind of stuff. And I know you too. Um so I'm so glad that you talked about it doesn't matter, and scarcity breeds creativity.
Absolutely. And by the way, Plano still has a great speech and debate team. They have amazing coaches. They're still at the top. But uh yeah, I made it to nationals a few times, maybe top 30 in dramatic interpretation and duo. What?
What were
Yeah,
your
I got a
pieces? What'd you do?
um so for dramatic interp, that was kind of my thing. Shocking drama. I love the serious, yeah.
You're so
Not
funny though. I
which is
think that
crazy.
that's the secret to dramatic acting is you have to have a sense of humor about it. You have to have joy, you cannot play the drama. And I think that's what makes really incredible dramatic actors. Okay, go ahead.
That's so true. And I wish I had actually known that when I was in high school performing. It could have been better, but I loved dramatic interpretation and then duo. We usually stayed with pros. And what was so fun about that was learning to cut stories. And so what I mean by that is you have 10 minutes, like you said. And when you're doing a dramatic interp, it's just you. And you may have 4 or 5 characters, and you've got to figure out voices and shape of your body. And how do I convincingly portray 3 to 4 characters by myself in a black suit in a classroom for 10 minutes and still make the story understandable? And that was a fun challenge. Thinking about, okay, how do I practice moving by body? I actually had a friend who was from a different school. We won't name the school's name, but he was a big competitor of mine, and we'd go back. It'd be like, oh, who's going to get first, second, third? Like who is it this time? And I remember we'd call each other now and then. Did we have cell phones? I don't know. I don't know if I called on the cell phone. Not sure if that was that was happening at
Girl,
that
you were
time.
using that landline with the cord that's stretched out and all wonky.
That's right. But we'd give each other a challenge, and we say, "Oh, listen to this voice that I came up with today." So this is, and it would be like one that he did was so funny. It was, "Oh, this was my great grandma who's in her 90s. She said this at the family reunion, and here's the voice that it made me think of." It's like, "If I was her, I'd put a 2x4 in the middle of that bed." I mean, it was just, and I still remember that. And there was this guy,
Yes.
and then he'd practice sound effects, like what kind of sound effects can you do with your voice to create this scene? And that was so fun and important. And maybe that's why I can play animals now. Um, but you really had to use your whole body to convey what was going on. And then I think the other piece of that too was learning how to have fun in that space,
Mm.
whether or not you were going to win or be successful.
So smart of you
Can
to say that.
can I make the audience have a good time? Can I have a good time? And you're doing this piece over and over again. Essentially, you're doing it every weekend, and someone's literally judging you for it. And they're like, I liked this. I didn't like this. You should change this. You should do this. And as an artist on some level, you have to be okay with, I walked in, I gave it everything I had in that moment, and I could do the same piece. And one week, truly, it was like every weekend, as you know, one weekend, I could not break to the semifinals round. And the next weekend, I was qualifying to nationals. So it really was a harsh thing to put yourself through that over and over again. But I think for auditions, so much better. It's the same thing when you're auditioning. Walk into that audition. And I love that we do at Genesis, we do our audition workshops, and we teach kids that. Like I've heard you say it over and over again. I've heard our instructors say, treat your audition like it's a performance. Go in, make big choices, leave everything you have on the table and be okay with it. And then, at Genesis, everyone who auditions gets a role. So that pressure of even like getting the role you want isn't necessarily, I mean, that's still there, but at least when you walk into an audition at Genesis, I'm going to be cast and I'm going to get to have this great time. So imagine the pressure then of walking into auditions where you may not even get past that round of auditions, and then that's it. Broadway happening, film, it's happening. I mean, you're giving everything. And so you've got to be okay with that. You have to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that was for me personally, such a huge wake up call. Because there for a while, I mean, when I was talking to Ashley Seal on our last podcast, she talked about your parts coming in as waves. And when I was just graduating high school and starting to audition around town, it was my wave. They were looking for short, funny, loud, me, right? They were looking for me. And so therefore I was able to book a lot of jobs. But I think I'm also going to give it up to my friend James McQuillan, because he was a music director on like all these shows that I auditioned for. And so I got cast, and I'm sure it was because he was like, cast my friend Megan. You won't be sorry. She's worth her salt. She is a hard worker and she's great to get along with. So that was so great. And so then riding on the coattails of that, I got my national tour offer. I didn't even have to audition, but I was in a show at Lyric Stage. They brought in a director from Broadway, Drew Scott Harris. And I guess he liked what I did. And he called me and he was like, hey, I've got this national tour. Do you want to come understudy Maria? And I was like, I had to ask my mom. So I asked my mom, and he was like, do you understand the opportunity I'm giving you? I was like, oh, right. Okay. But then after that happened, and I was like, man, I'm just booking it. It dried up. Like it just went away. I came back from my national tour, and I could not get cast to save my life. Now, I think part of that was because I had my equity card, and it was, they weren't going to waste their one contract on somebody that they could cast non-ec. But because I had spent my entire career, not only, I mean, high school is not really pay to play. You can not get cast, but being in a pay to play system for a long time, the reality of when it dries up and you are not guaranteed anything, I mean, it was like the rug was ripped from me. And then I started getting like, well, who am I? Like, why am I not getting cast? Do I sound the same? I look the same? Like, what is the matter with me? And that, I think, is the danger that you really have to. And I think people are more open about it now with internet and TikTok and Reels. There are people supporting other people. But back then, I just felt like I was on an island. And I didn't understand what was going on with me. And I had to have friends be like, look at my friend X, Y, and Z. Do you not think she's talented? I'm like, she's crazy talented. She's like, she's not working right now. Can't get a job to save her life. Like, okay, well, it makes me feel better. So just all that to say, like, the practice of not getting what you want and learning that side of this business is also really important. And I think that's something that speech and debate teaches you over and over and over again, to where you are a practiced competitor more than even you're a practiced actor.
Absolutely. And to that point, remembering that your identity is not in what you do. It is not in what people think of you. It is not in how you feel from day to day, because our feelings are so short. They don't last. Feelings don't have to last.
Yep.
And so I think that theater and performing in general is such a great outlet and learning opportunity for kids, especially if we're going back to kids, of learning that I can have fun and I can be happy with who I am if I am on stage for 5 seconds. I mean, in Oklahoma, I played Gertie Cummins, who spends most of the show backstage because everybody hates her. I'd walk on and be like, yeah, I'm Gertie Cummins. And then I'd walk off and I didn't sing. I mean, it was like the whole show I was backstage and then 2 shows later, I'm a lead, but then the next time I'm not, and I would say that even some of my favorite roles were not the ingenue, were not the lead at all. And so if you can maintain, like, this is who I am, I'm doing this because I'm passionate about it, I love it, my purpose is in this moment giving the audience a great time. My purpose is being the art that the director sees a vision for. Wow, the director sees me as someone that fits this picture. And even if my picture feels weird and not what I wanted to be doing, how can I make that vision for the director pop and come true so that, to your point, that director wants to work with me again? Because I'd like to follow up with what you said about your friend James. I would say everything that I have had the opportunity to do has come from someone else. You know, my teachers in high school, my professors in college, you, Nicole, we kind of walked away for a little bit before Genesis, that first theater experience kind of dissipated for about a year. And I remember just saying to you, man, Megan Dembski, that's a person I want to work with long term. Like, if I can work with that girl, like, I want to be on her team. I don't care what it is. It I can be a spider or a mouse
Or a
or
lion.
or a
Any other
lion.
animal you can think of.
And I want to be an animal. I want to be one of Megan's animals, one of Megan's pets. That I'll be your animal on stage. But truly, I wanted to align myself with you guys. And so I remember telling you, hey, if you do anything else in the future, please consider me. Please, if you think I'm worth anything, reach back out. I'd love to be part of whatever you do in the future. And then Genesis came into being. Y'all called me. I was so excited. I was just so excited to be remembered. And I'm so glad I didn't have to leave that theater opportunity. You all were like, "Hey, we're leaving. We're moving on. You're welcome to stay." I really felt secure in thinking this could have been my only shot in theater. I was new to Dallas. Like, I could have stayed on with that theater company. Um, but I thought, no, if I want to align myself with someone, it's got to be people like Megan and Nicole and Marcel and these directors who love kids, who are serious about theater, who have a vision, and what I think of people as integrity. And I said, that is the type of person I want to align with. And so I also left that theater company because I wanted to be considered by you guys in the future. And I don't regret any second of it. I'm just so grateful. And I think that's important to remember, that we get scared that this one opportunity is it. And if I don't take it, even though I feel uncomfortable or I'm not happy about it, I'm never going to get anything else. And I would rather align myself with people who I believe have a shared vision, or like a shared, I think that's important. And not saying that everyone you're going to work with, you're going to like. And some opportunities are like, man, I did that, I probably won't do that again. I mean, and that's part of life too, but I think that's important because I'm so grateful for Jo Beth Nicholas and Alyssa Sartwell, and I'm like, you guys, and I just could go on. I mean, Nancy Foy, the casting director that I worked for, Christian Kaplan, Brian Riley, these casting directors who invested in me at Fox when I was there. They had no business, no reason to do that. But I remember going into that space and just thinking, who am I? Okay, I just have to work hard, put my nose down. I'll get there first. If the floor needs swept, I'm going to sweep the floor. If the coffee needs made, I'm going to make coffee. I'm going to be here and ready to work and do whatever I need to, not in a demeaning way, but in a way that says, I'm here to learn and learn from you. You owe me nothing. I'm here to see what you can teach me. And so I'm going to be really grateful for that. All those people, put me in my first film. I didn't need to be in that film. but they made it happen for me, and so on and so forth. So I look back on my life even now and go, man, it was the people I surrounded myself with, the people who gave me chances, like your friend, and now I want to be that person.
Mhm.
It's like a pay it forward. So if I have an opportunity now and I'm in a position of, let's say, like authority or power or decision making in the industry, I am looking for people who I see work hard, are great, have joy, who
Mm.
are willing to work hard, who absolutely have talent, but like are willing to be there and who've given maybe to me. I had a student, former student, and two students came to see Boy on Billboard that Lisa Apple and I wrote and produced our musical, that we wrote and produced, and they came to see it. None of our other students came. Not throwing shade on all the others,
Sure.
the former students, but they came to see it. They didn't have to, and they came up afterwards and they were like, "Hey, wow, this was so great. Good job." And I thought, you know what? To them, we were just maybe their middle school theater choir teachers, but they showed up and took us seriously. And so one of those, the student, she said, "Hey, if you ever do this again and there's a part for me, I would love to be considered." And that stayed with me.
Mhm.
And not a year later, I called her up and said, "Hey, we're taking Boy on Billboard to New York. We're singing at 54 Below. Would you like to join the cast?" And so then she gets to be on stage in New York. Now I cast her in a feature film that's shooting here locally. That matters. That matters to people.
Yeah. Absolutely. I want to circle back to your casting director, or your experience at Fox, because you have such a fascinating career. You've got your hands in so many different aspects of theater. Not only animals on stage, but so many other things. But I am so curious about your time at Fox, and how what you learned about the casting process that maybe people don't like. I want to know the nitty-gritty. Like what's the seedy, not necessarily seedy, but what are the things that aren't talked about that is
Yeah.
the harsh reality? And then I also want you to tell me about how you got Seasons of Grey, because I mean, you're like the lead actress in this feature film. Like, that just blows me away. I want to talk about those two things.
Okay. First of all, um, my professors, I was at a film school called Los Angeles Film Studies Center. Have to give a shout out to them. And my professors, John Booker, I mean, just an awesome, awesome professor. Chris Krebsbach, got to give them props. But going into the 20th Century Fox Features casting internship, they had a longstanding internship with this particular group, and they told me first and foremost, like, "Hey, it's a really hard internship. Like, it's very stressful. You need to be sure that you want to do it. And, you can't just be doing it because you think like, oh, I'm going to meet, actors and actresses, which who I did meet some amazing like people. Um, but so that was a little frightening. And so my first take was, okay, I've just got to like, I also was like, hey, Lord, give me favor, like help me to just be focused and be willing to work hard and serve, because that goes a long way. So my big takeaways, uh, first was the casting directors work so hard, and they are having to communicate with a director. They've got agents who are sending headshots and resumes, and they have, other factors like, hey, the director wants this person's daughter maybe because the producer is paying the money. So there are so many factors going in. And so the biggest thing I learned was it's not just about being talented,
Mm. Yes.
because I saw some incredibly talented auditions and actors come through, and they ended up casting the kid who had the most tween appeal, and he was still great. But in terms of acting, I was like, oh yeah, he's got it in the bag. And I remember my casting director saying, okay, between guy 1 and 2, who do you think was better? And I said, well, I really think that guy 1 is the better actor. And I think he goes, oh, yes. But he always go like, yes or no, yes or no. He wanted clear decisions. Like, you got to make a decision and you have to be certain. There's no waffling. You can't take a lot of time to just think about things. So that was a big thing for me, learning to have confidence and be direct, because that place was direct. It was
Yeah.
scary. Like, very direct.
Wow.
Like, there's no time to talk out our feelings about it. We got to make decisions. And they went with the guy number 2, who had been in a lot of Disney stuff at that point. So they felt like that would sell and put butts in seats. You got to put butts in seats, because these people need to make money to feed their families.
Yeah.
Like the casting directors, they're making money too to feed their families. And so they have to have this bigger vision for a film. And then something else that this is really important, I think, for all of us to hear, and all young people. So when we cast a film, an agency would send over like a packet. Now it's probably all digital. But at that time, they would send a packet of their top people for the pick. So we were casting a Date Night with Tina Fey and Steve Carell, which was
Love that movie.
a great movie.
So
So I had the script, and I would read the script. Like, they let me take the script home to read at night and do character breakdowns. So Tina and Steve had already been cast. So their characters that was like Tina, Steve, and that's not their names in the film, but that was so fun to me. But we were casting all of the extra parts. So all the extra roles in the film we were casting. And we had all of these packets. Well, one of my jobs was to take all the packets from agencies that we did not really know and have a relationship with and throw them away.
Wow. Wow.
So,
Not even getting into the door. I mean, wow.
not
Wow.
even looking.
Yeah.
Because we had all of these submissions. We only have so much time, and look at me, look at you. Like, hey, we could potentially be interchangeable in terms of like looks, or anything like that. So if we already have 4 decent types to bring in for auditions, we don't need to bring in 20 people. That's not necessary. It's not useful.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people out there who are way better than me at acting, and who are way better at me than singing and dancing. And so
All of us. Good for
Exactly.
everyone to know. There's always somebody better. Always.
Yes, exactly. So that was a good wake up call for me. And so we pull in the 4, and it's not a personal thing. It's not, everybody wants to make money and do the industry, and they want to make a good film. It's kind of ridiculous. I think that actors kind of get stuck up a little bit, or like entitled, and like, oh, the gatekeepers. And I'm like, they're doing a job. And their job is time and money. They're not here like trying to make you feel good about yourself, or like give you a chance. Them giving you a chance could hurt their career, could hurt their industry or the film. So nobody owes you anything. I think that was a big thing for me. Even if they want to. So one of the best memories in my mind was in the office, and this is a me thing. I loved the people I worked with. They're amazing, smart, funny, kind, like generous. I love all of them. But I remember sweeping up the floor one day, and I was like, I can't. I was like, I don't have any. I didn't have a dustpan, and so the thing that is like the thickest, but also like thin enough, is a headshot. A headshot is like the perfect way. So literally, I'm like sweeping dirt onto this girl's resume that was in the trash that I found in the, and I was like, I'm so sorry, Sarah Brown. Like if she knew that her face, like,
on me.
yeah, the intern is like sweeping dirt on her headshot that she paid money for. And I hate to even say that. I'm not painting the industry in a bad light. It's like, this is just the reality, and you have to be okay with it, or go do something else that makes you happy. So that was great. And then I guess another piece of just like if you want like the nitty gritty,
Yeah.
um
It's
was
peel back the curtain at
yeah,
Genesis
yeah.
this year. Yeah.
Yeah, we would do open casting calls. Those things really do happen. I think sometimes people see like an open casting call and they think it's not real. Like, oh, they probably have something for that part. I'm not even going to submit. But I was part of creating a list to send out or a post and creating a list of all of the elementary schools for all of Southern California in proximity for Beezus and Ramona because they were still looking for the Ramona character. They hadn't found the girl yet. And so they were opening up the casting opportunities and sending it out to like all the elementary schools in the area saying, is there someone here? And that is a real thing. So don't balk at those opportunities. Take a chance, submit. If it says open casting, do it. Because when I got to Texas, my grandmother, my husband's grandmother, my mother-in-law, or grandmother-in-law,
Sure.
she texted me one day and she was like, Meg, I heard my friend Judy has this. She heard that this Watermark is producing a movie in there. And I was like, oh, okay, Grandma, thanks. I guess she's my agent now.
Shout out.
Who's your agent, Grandma? And so I looked it up. I was working a night shift. And I looked it up, and sure enough, they still had not found their lead for Seasons of Grey. And they we're also looking for another supporting role with lines for these two girls. And then they hadn't found their lead guy yet. And the auditions were within like that week downtown in Dallas. And I just thought, well, okay, I don't have an agent. I really don't know the scope of this. I know that they had been looking on Actors Access, which is another place that's great to have your stuff if you're there. Fox and like the big casting agencies cast from there too. But I signed up for an audition. So there was no like self-tape stuff happening at this time. So I signed up for an audition, had my little resume. It helped because the last thing I had done before I came to Dallas was Aliens in the Attic. My amazing casting directors put me on that. I do have something to circle back on that too, which is like the nitty gritty of the business, by the way.
Yeah.
But they put me in that. And so I had this one credit other than like college theater, on my resume. Maybe I did a couple commercials when I got to Dallas, just through another like friend thing. I did a Kia and Hyundai commercial.
Ooh.
So that might, but I had no credits basically. And I showed up to this audition.
Were you
No, but you know what?
animal?
No, I did wear some furry ears though. I was wearing like ear headbands. Yeah.
Good. Because it suits you.
No. Yeah, my time as an animal came later. Like this was pre-animal debut. Yeah, I was just prepping for my debut as a lion. Like memories all alone and okay.
No, ma'am, we're just shooting a car commercial. We don't need you to sing that.
Oh, but can I get to the second verse, please? That's the best part.
No, ma'am.
Oh. So I walk into this audition and I do my audition for the two parts. And I'm thinking maybe they'll take me as Jenny, who's like this extra, part. And I remember finishing my audition and the director, it's intimidating. There's a whole row of people and, you're in these lights and he looks at my resume and he flips it over at my headshot and he like looks at my resume again and he looks up at me and he goes, who's your agent? Like, I just crashed an audition. Oh no. I'm this random person. It said open casting call. Like, does that not mean open? I cannot believe. And I just stared and I'm not going to say, grandmom. So I just
Grandmom Agency.
Winnie Wilson of the Wilson Casting Agency of the North, Texas. Yeah. So I said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I don't have an agent." And he goes, "Oh, no, no, it's okay. I'm just wondering." And then he said, "And what about this? I saw you were in a film with 20th Century Fox." And I'm thinking like I feel like I'm like having to explain myself. I'm like,
Yeah.
"Ugh." And then I'm like, "Just be cool, Meg." And so he said, "Okay, well, thank you." And I walked out, and then I was walking down the stairs. I'm like, oh my gosh, like what? What was that? Oh no. I get out into the parking lot and I hear someone yelling my name. I turn around and I can't remember if it was the director or somebody else on the team, but they're like chasing me out of the building. And I'm thinking, oh, like now what? Did I leave my purse in there or something? I'm just like
Right.
thinking, and they said, "Hey, we want to bring you back for a callback. Can you do that?"
Wow,
And so then,
literally chasing you into the parking lot because they did not wanna
yeah.
let you go. Ooh,
Well,
that's
then I'm wondering, yeah, but then I'm wondering, did I not put my cell phone number on maybe I didn't put my cell phone number on the resume and they're like, "Well, you're
yeah.
not gonna be able to get a hold of this girl." I don't know. Like, you better chase her out the door. So
"Does
got the
anyone
call
have the
back.
shoe? We can chase all the maidens in the land, we can."
Exactly. We need a blonde girl. Oh, wait, what? Not in Texas.
Right. They're hard to come by.
Yeah, yeah, they're hard to find. And so yeah, then we did the callback, and this is where I think it's really important to make gut choices or different choices. I think Megan, I think you are such a good gut actor. I love that
Aw.
you are such a you do what you think is happening in your body and what's coming natural to you. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't sense that you overthink your characters or like try to logically figure out what they would do. And I think I love that. As a director, I love that. Now, I do think that there have to be head actors too, because that's also important. And I don't think anyone's process is wrong. They're just different.
Mhm,
But
mhm,
sometimes going with your gut can be very powerful
mhm.
because you're living in the moment and you're not living in your head or in fear or like, "Oh, I planned this thing out." So, um, the director told me what got me the job was that in this one scene, and it's in Seasons of Grey, and you can see it in Seasons of Grey, the main character hands my character a necklace, and he's about to say like, "Hey, it's an invitation, like, I'm gonna tell you my story now." And he said, every other girl, when he had handed the necklace, every other girl leaned in. And he said, when the guy handed me the necklace, I moved back.
I
And
just got
I
chills.
it was I don't even remember doing that, but then I ended up doing it in the film because he wanted me to. But in my head, in my gut, in my head, whatever, I was just like, oh, like that's scary. Like, why are you? Because there was a whole history prior, and he's like, "Hey, I'm opening up," and I was like, I don't know. Do I want to get hurt again? Do I want to like that would just be my reaction. Like, what is
Uh-huh.
this? What are you going to tell me? And so that I don't know, that always has stuck with me. Like, go with your gut, do something interesting, make a choice and be okay with it cuz that might be the thing that gets you the job. Now, it might also be the thing that makes you lose the job.
And you
So,
just never know. But what I think what's so smart about that is that you created a conflict in that
mm,
moment, that character had to fight to get you back rather than just making it easy. You created
mhm,
conflict in that moment, and I think that's so wise.
that's true.
Wow. What was it like filming that movie? Like, what kind of preparation were you ever like, "Holy cow, this is a big deal. I've got a lot of pressure," or were you just like, "I'm gonna take it day by day. I'm gonna," how did you prepare to do that?
It feels like so long ago, honestly. It's hard to remember those moments. But I think that it's the same whether I'm on stage or in front of a camera. Um, I think even directing, when you're getting ready to direct a scene, I think the feeling is all the same. And I know what I think needs to happen today in this shot, in this moment, in this scene, on this stage. But I have to be flexible enough if that's not what is needed anymore as we're going through the process. I have to be willing and flexible enough to change, to pivot. Because as you know, in film, you get sides sometimes. You walk in and like, we changed the script last night because this makes more sense. And you're like,
Mm.
okay, let me just remember okay, I've never seen this. I have to reframe everything. I think the thing that's fun about film is, I don't know, the almost the pressure is fun, like the lights and the activity and all of that. I think that's really fun. And I do think that in film, playing the smaller moments
Mm.
and not always having to be big all the time, I think that's really fun. Getting to play more intimate moments, or maybe being able to act in your face as opposed to having to use words, because in theater, you don't always get those quiet moments of contemplation because not everyone can see those. And so typically stories aren't writing those in because that wouldn't make sense if someone misses a tiny moment. So I like those pieces of it. Yeah, and just being willing to take direction and not take things personally. Long days. The thing that I love most about theater is getting to tell a story from beginning to end in one setting. And the gratification of that is so awesome. You know,
Yes.
you do a film and you're like, all the scenes are out of order and they're not in sequence, and you have fun on set. And then you wait for maybe a year before you get to go see it on the big screen, or you get to see it in theater. It's so fun to be able to start to finish tell a story and have an audience immediately, that immediate gratification, and getting to play your character all the way through in a 2.5 hour show, or feel that collective energy. And in a theater, anything can happen. Every night can be different, and that's so fun too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love both, and they're different. I don't know that answered your story or your question, but I
I'm
don't know.
happy to go wherever you want to go.
I don't know. Like, yeah, I guess be prepared, but be willing to be flexible and pivot. And I think that's the hardest thing for me, is being willing in any situation to say, oh, this isn't how I thought I would be doing it or thought it was going to go. I have to change, and I have to change right now. Like, I have to make a different choice right now and be happy about it and not be bitter. Because if you're bitter, then it shows. Or if you're like mad, like, oh, I don't like this, then it's no good.
Yeah, that's really interesting to think about, because you're getting immediate feedback, and you don't have a rehearsal period to kind of work your emotional ties to whatever you thought you were going to do. Like, you have to sever the tie immediately, and like very well, because like you just said, everything's going to show on screen. I never thought about that. How quick you have to bounce back if you have a disagreement with the director, or I don't know, it just all shows and it's right then and there.
Yeah,
Wow.
you don't have like, oh, we did notes at the end of this run, go home, sleep on it, come back with a different face and attitude. Like, it's not like, thank you, note, see you tomorrow. It's like, okay, run it again. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm not sad
Woo!
anymore. I'm laughing hysterically and I love it. Like, okay.
Wow, that's fascinating. I want to talk to you about, I think it's interesting about how different people come up with characters. And I think you are such a great character actor. I would love to learn, like, when you get a role, what is your process? How do you start putting together a character?
I have to move. I cannot read a character and the lines without moving. I mean, I can, but until I actually start moving around and playing, that is why I love rehearsal so much. I love rehearsal. And I think that if I have to show up with something already created, I can do that. But for me, developing my character has so much more to do with what other people are doing on stage. Like, what are they giving? So, how am I reacting to them? And as this character, as I'm developing, like, I guess my ambiance or my vibe, like, how does that translate then into the way that I would react naturally? And so I love to move around. I love playing games. This is why I love that we play games at Genesis and we do movement exercises. If you walked into one of my rehearsals or any of our rehearsals and you saw a bunch of kids crawling around on their stomachs or like walking like crabs or like jumping around, it might look like it's goofing off, but it's actually such a big part of the process. Um, and so I like to create levels and just almost like feel the weight of the character in my body. Like, what is the weight of this character?
Mm.
Talking about Spider from James and the Giant Peach, one of my favorite all-time characters. I actually loved playing her so much.
Yeah, you did an
It
excellent
was
job.
so fun. And
Mm.
just imagining, of course, the accent, of course, and that can sometimes play in. But if she has these arms and legs, if she's a spider, then like, how does she stand? Does she stand up prim and proper? I think there's a picture that Doug Fullington, our awesome photographer and parent, photographed, and like my legs are like outspread and my arms are like this, and I thought, oh, yes. Yeah, she looks like a spider. So a lot of stuff can happen with costumes, but a lot of stuff is just how your body is. So first for me, developing a character has all to do with like, how does this character's body going to move? Because when you
Mm.
figure out the weight of your character in your body, then all your reactions and everything else kind of follows naturally, in my opinion. So yeah, I like blocking. I have a hard time memorizing until I've blocked a scene, actually, because like so much of maybe that's just natural, but I'm such a tactile learner and kinesthetic learner
Yeah.
that I have to kind of experience it. It's harder for me to just come into rehearsal and be like, I know exactly what's going to happen with my character. I come in more of like, I think my character is like this, and then whatever you do, I'm going to be like, oh, I'm going to react how.
Yeah. That's so funny
You're
because
welcome. You.
I I do a lot of research. Because I'm a visual person, I want to see how 15 other people have done it if I can.
Yeah,
I want to
yeah.
see how 15 other people did it and then I'll like give my go at it. And I think the first place I go is my voice. Like I want to find
Mm,
their voice. What do they sound like? You are also you have incredible voices and characters and that, I also love to like find their voice and you and I think we really discovered this weekend, but you love to be gritty and gnarly and not beautiful and like that's also my jam. I love to give you something unexpected. Even though I look like a girly girl, I don't want to do that on stage. Like I want to be ugly and gross. Like that makes me so happy.
yeah.
Yeah, and so it is yeah, my voice and then yeah, and then I'll just start I work with the text too. I'll do lines, and then I'll try to say them in ridiculous ways to try to find something new. Like how can I say this line where nobody else has ever said it before? And that'll start to give me some ideas. And then I do lots of homework. I do lots of prep work when I come in to rehearsal, I really do have an idea about what I want to do. And from that, like if I create a really specific design of my character, then I can, I just try to improv. I just try to be so innocent of everything that's going on and just
Yes.
be playful and be present and just I feel so free on stage. I don't feel insecure.
Mhm.
Especially, well, I'll talk about James and the Giant Peach too. It was my favorite costume ever because I got to be this big fat lady, who's totally disgusting, and she's so mean and gross,
Yeah.
and isn't it funny how I don't know if you've noticed this, but lately when we cast our younger kids as mean people, they have a really hard time. They're like, but I'm not mean, but I want them to know, if they're acting with another person, I want them to know I'm not being mean. And it's so interesting because even as a kid, I had no problem with that. I was like, I think I understand that you and I are both in an agreement that this is a scene, and so
Yes.
therefore I get to play as much as I want. Um, but yeah, so I also love rehearsal. I love working with people. Um, and I love working at Genesis with you guys because we have such we have such a what is it like not a second language, but like You know, we all know what we're thinking. We're
Share,
also comfortable.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're also comfortable
Yeah,
with each
shared
other.
language.
Yes. Yeah, I don't feel the pressure of you've got to, I mean, of course I do. You got to produce for your audiences and your families and, you know, you got to set a tone, but I don't feel the added pressure of, I don't know, it just feels cozy and home.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know,
Yeah.
I wish
Yeah.
that I would have felt that when I did my national tour. I felt so, that's such a different way of rehearsing because you've got to hit your marks and you've got to do it exactly the way that they want you to do. There's really not a lot of freedom, but there should be. I think the people that do really well are able to find the freedom and be able to push the boundaries within the sandbox of like professional theater. I guess I was so intimidated that I was like, I don't want to do anything wrong. So therefore I'm not really gonna push the boundary, you know, which is dangerous.
And that is something really important to know about my experience in theater from a young age to film to Fox to being on the Warner Brothers set, you know, getting to film Aliens in the Attic, and then my experience at Genesis and being in pieces is fear is your biggest obstacle. It is not the gatekeepers. It is not the person next to you auditioning who is a threat to you. It is not how much money you have to put on the production. It is not any of your circumstances. I mean, I grew up dirt poor, and that didn't mean anything for my future. I went to a small college, right? And I have friends who went to huge programs and they're not doing anything in the realm of theater or film, and that's fine. Everyone has a choice, but you would presume that, you know, for someone who went to a really small, tiny little nobody knows anything about it um school, and then the opportunities at Fox, you know, just taking those, and if I had been afraid, and I was, not to say that like being afraid, even moving to Texas, I was really scared, but I knew I was supposed to be here. I think that's the biggest lesson to learn.
Fear.
Yes, is fear that your competition is not your obstacle. How much money you have, how big your space is, how, you know, what kind of school you went to, what kind of program. Those are not your biggest obstacles. Your biggest obstacles are going to be the fear that's in your head that says, ooh, I don't think I can do this. I don't think I'm good enough. I don't want anybody to think badly of how I am on stage, or like, what do I look like? And I think that's why I like weird characters, because that expectation is not even there. Like, and I like there are a lot of characters I like to play, but when you start getting in your head and you're afraid of what people think of you when you're up there, are they going to like me? And that goes back to identity too. Like, hey, my identity is secure in my faith, and that I know that this thing that I'm doing could all be gone tomorrow. So I'm just going to invest and enjoy it while I have it. And that eliminates so much pressure. The fear of perfection is such a drag. It keeps us from doing so many things in life. And, you know, you get up on stage or you get in a film and you have a bad take, or, you know, it doesn't work out really well. At the end of the day, you learn from it and you move on. So fear is the biggest inhibitor, I think, in life.
Well, I think I'm so glad that you said that, because you, I think, do such an amazing job of just being like, I'm going to do this. Why not? And like, you do it. Like, that's why we got to 54 Below. It wasn't because some guy asked you about it. You're like, no, we're going to do it. And we did it, you know? And like, I think that is, not because you didn't have reservations. Of course you did, but I think that is so bold. I try to adopt that as well. Just like, well, why can't we? Who says that we can't do XYZ? Like, the world is our oyster, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that kind of ties into what I want to talk about, the last thing I want to talk about is your new projects that you've got going on, particularly, well, I mean, you just went to a festival and premiered your short film and won the awards. And now you are on a new venture. Well, I won't, talking about people's reels. Can you, and I think that's so bold and so awesome. And, just again, it's just like, I see a gap in the community. I see a need, and I'm just gonna fill it. And here it is. So can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, I love the idea, and it's not a new idea, but this phrase that keeps circling around, I think, in the artist community, which is the cavalry isn't coming. No one's going to discover you. You're not going to walk into a room and be at some party or at something, and someone's going to walk up and be like, oh, "We've been looking for you, another blonde girl that looks not exactly." I mean, I laugh about that because it's just true. And
Yeah.
they're not going to discover you. So what can I do as an artist? Because at the end of the day, I want to make art and I want to bring all my friends with me. I think Adam Sandler is brilliant, by the way. He has made a career of telling stories with his friends and his wife and having a great time doing it and entertaining people. And I want to be Adam Sandler. I want to be a person who says, let's all get together and do something. And so speaking of the gap in the industry, especially in film, I don't know. This is my own, no one said this. This is me, so take it for what it's worth, people. But I think that the best way to get cast in something is to be doing work. And if you don't have work, you're not practicing your craft. You can be paying money to take lessons. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but especially in our film industry, people want to see what you've done. A reason I cast at least 3 people in this feature film I was just casting director on is because I saw their reels, and not their reels really. I saw clips of other shows that they've been in. So not auditions, but, seeing that they'd been in other things. And so I was like, oh, I want that person, because it takes that time away from me having to be sure that this is going to work out. I already know, I think I could cast them today without them ever auditioning for this role, because I see they have the capacity to do the dramatic, crying, emotional. I don't need them to get there on an audition. I think self-tapes are so hard. A self-tape is so hard to get cast in because a director wants that feeling. And so I do think the industry moving digitally has created a lot of, I think it's hurt actors. I think that's why I do love theater auditions too. Primarily, they're mostly in person and you can kind of get the sense with the person in the room. So filling the gap, what I'd like to do more of is co-produce shorts or films with actors who want to be co-producers, allowing themselves to be cast in the roles that they're trying to get cast in. I love to write. I love collaboration. I'm not saying I'm the best writer out there. I'm definitely not. I'm still learning. But it's interesting to think about collaborating in a way that says, hey, Megan, what's a dream role you want? What's your dream role? What do you want to play, Megan? What do you want to be on film?
Oh, I guess now it's looking like Dot and Sunday in the Park with George.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Maybe
So
maybe a little Alice and Bright Star. Mm-hmm.
Snaps. We love. And so, saying if that's a dream role for you, let's write a story that gives you that same character and that opportunity to show that you can play that, right? I mean, I know I'm good at playing animals, but I don't want to always play animals. So where can I, what kind of character? Like, I'm good at that, but how can I expand? And if no one sees that I can do that, they just look at my resume and they're like, spider and a kangaroo and, all those pieces. So the last project that we filmed was a rom-com for a friend of mine who's an actress, and doing a rom-com and co-producing something together that really gets to show her skill set in those pieces, and the guy too. So I'm interested in doing more of that. And I think it's valuable because at the end of the day, the goal is that is what gets you the next job, right? But on this holistic level is we get to create something together that's great, and we put good art out in the world and other people get to see it. So it's really a win-win, pulling people along and getting experience. So I'm excited to explore what that looks like. And if other people are interested in doing that, let's do it. Yeah.
I love that. I think that's so brilliant. And my favorite thing about it is that you're saying that the actor gets a producing credit. They get that piece of it as well, not just being the talent, but the person that is behind the camera that can also profit or gain or have that credit. It's a win-win, win-win, win-win-win. There's so many wins, because as an actor, you do need more ownership, I think, financial ownership as well.
Yes.
I just love that. I think that's such a brilliant idea, and I hope everybody contacts you about that, and you make all the reels and get all the people the jobs.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you think about it, just real quick on that note, you could pay money to go to acting classes, or you could co-produce something that you get to be part of creating, which could actually make you money on the back end with those points. If it gets distributed properly, and you get your face in front of film festivals, and you get more for your reel. It seems too good. It seems too good. So it's just a matter of
Yeah.
finding if you want to do it. So anyway, I'm up for it. I'm excited. I think there's more potential for that to come. And then in the meantime, I have now I've got other film projects, a feature film written, and some other pieces kind of coming. So it's been a wild year, but it's been really fun. And directing at Genesis is always such a gift, like you said, because of the collaboration. I think our artists, we all get along as a staff in terms of shared vision, collaboration, everybody coming in to watch a rehearsal and give notes. And that teaches our kids to share and take constructive criticism and be open. And it teaches kids to be collaborative and not, individualistic on that sense. And I love that. I love working with you. You've pushed me and stretched me. So it's it's a good thing we've got going.
Yes, my dear. Well, thank you so much. It's always a joy. It's never, it's just easy to talk to you, and you're just such a fascinating person, and I respect you so much, and I just love all the things that are on the horizon for you, and I love that our kids get to learn from you, and not only do you bring such a wealth of knowledge just in your directing, but you are when I'm struggling with, I don't know, life and people and personalities and stuff, like, you always give such great advice and just mentorship, just in the people space. You always have a wise thing to say, or a really even-handed way of looking at things that I always appreciate. um and thanks for being with me today and being my second guest on
I'm
Beyond the Spotlight.
honored. I'm honored.
No, thank you. All right, until next time. Ciao, Bella.
Bye.
Let's see. I just want to make sure that we are all good. Actual record. Okay, great. Okay. Yes, it's recording. Okay. 70%. Yep. Okay. All right. Here we go.
Fabulous.
Welcome to Beyond. Hold your horses. It's my intro. Dang it.